Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Two Saints podcast show with myself, Mark C, and my co-host, Mark H. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right now. It's been a bit of an up and down week. You know what I mean? Such as the fortunes of following Southampton football.
Absolutely right.
But, yeah, I mean, obviously, on Saturday, I was on the sunnier side of the street. And then on Wednesday evening, a little bit of rain fell down, to be fair.
Yeah, it was kind of, we went from walking on sunshine to rain on me, didn't we?
But I hope all the listeners are keeping safe and well, mate, and, looking after each other.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So we've got a treat for you today. Coming up in the first half of today's show, the Two Saints review of Sheffield United 0, Saints 2, and Man City 5, Saints 2, plus Saints club news. So we'll start with the Two Saints review of Sheffield United 0, Saints 2. Adams' stunner helps Saints blunt blades. Ralph Hasenhüttl's reaction to that, and Shay Adams' reaction to that as well. So, wasn't bad, Mark, was it? Absolute stunner from Shay Adams. I swear he's got a traction engine attached to that foot.
That one out. I mean, the Man City goal was brilliant, right? But it was just. I know you're going to touch on it because he says it in the interview, right? But it is true. As soon as it left his boot, you knew where it was going. It was just one of those. The technique was a dream. I mean... Yeah,
he pretty much said the second it left his foot, he knew where it was going. And it spot on.
The thing, and the other thing I want to say about Shay is, I mean, to me, I get that people want them to be scoring more goals at this level. I get all of that. But you look at the goals that he does score, right? And you look at his all-round contribution, right? And it baffles me, even when he's struggling for a bit of form, it still baffles me that Ralph leaves him out. Honestly, because I just sit there and I think to myself, well, if Danny Ings isn't scoring, right, and James Ward-Prowse isn't scoring his obligatory free kicks, right, who's your next biggest goal threat?
Yannick Vestergaard.
No, but you know what I mean. And I base it on that, you know. And then obviously you've got Yannick Vestergaard, people like Stuart Adams will chip in me, or Stuart Armstrong, will chip in me a few goals. But I just, sometimes when I see that he's not in the starting lineup and he's sat on the bench, so it's not injury related, and I sort of sit there and I think, you can't afford to leave any sort of goal threat, as I look at it, out of your team, you know?
No, you can't. No, I agree with that. Well, and the thing is as well, with Danny Ings being injured as well now, it's Shay's chance to say, look, I can lead the line. And if Danny Ings does leave, that's what he's going to be doing, isn't it? He will be leading the line. So for me, it's an ideal opportunity for Shay Adams to stamp his authority and make a mark and go, look, I'm here. This is what I can do. And I think a little bit of working on his finishing within the box, and we'll have a really good goal scorer on our hands. And we've got a great player there.
Anyway, let's get to the game. So,
yes,
I've got to start with, right. I mean, I just want to paraphrase this very quickly, right. I have to say, Nathan Teller had an excellent game, and he, unlike some of the other prospects in the under-23s. He looks like the one that might actually take up the mantle and run with it. He had an excellent game for Saints. Only slight criticism would be, right, about 10 minutes into the game, he's in prime position, right? And all I'll say about the shot is, apparently on Saturday evening, the Hubble telescope seen it on the way to the moon, I think. But apart from that, he had an excellent game. I think the thing that we all noticed was, obviously it was a second string Derby defence, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And they struggled with his pace.
Yeah, they did.
The whole game. The whole game.
Yeah, they did. No, it was constant threat. Well, he actually backed up. Nathan Teller actually backed up what I was saying to you a while ago about Nathan Redmond and Gineppo, about the fact that they're both, when they're direct, a real threat. And they would have been a threat in that game if they were doing the same things as Nathan Teller. Nathan Teller's doing exactly what I said to you Nathan Redmond should be doing. And he's making an impact, and he is making an impact. And he did have a great game. And a penalty. Obviously, we scored from that. Shay Adams then follows it up with that absolute stunner. And it was just, the first time I saw that, it was just pick it out. I knew exactly where that was going.
The most disappointing thing from my point of view would have been in that last 20 minutes. I mean, don't get me wrong. I felt the first half was very even Stevens, Mark, right?
They actually had more chances than us.
Yeah. I really did. I mean, there was that opportunity McGoldrick had, and he decided to chip it into Fraser's arms, which was
the
fortuitous.
Wall.
And there was one or two other, occasions in the first half. But in the second half, when Shea scored the goal, we were dominant. I mean, we were absolutely dominant, and I questioned, you and me coming out with draw predictions. Obviously, it was nerves getting the better of us, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Because
how dare we doubt the team?
Was we didn't want to lose.
How dare we doubt our team?
I can feel that coming on for the Brighton prediction as well, But anyway, what I would say is when you look in the second half and you look at the array, and I mean the array of chances we had. I mean, Milaminu, Armstrong, Gineppo, because we had Gineppo and Shea Adams basically more or less in the same spot.
Yeah.
Both had great chances. Nathan Redmond was down that side as well. He had another great chance. And like I said, Milaminu and Stuart Armstrong. And really, on another day, it could have been 5.
Oh, easily. Yeah, I mean, Saints had not tried in 9 Premier League matches. So 9 Premier League matches without a win for Saints heading to Bramall Lane. They emphatically ended that streak, to be fair. It was emphatic in the end. 2-0 for Saints was quite emphatic, considering the chance of Sheffield United at the start of the game. It was pretty emphatic, to be fair. Ralph Hasenhuttl actually said, we're still not on the highest level, but it's important to have the first win after a long time. He said it's very good, definitely. After a long, long time without a win, it's always important to get that first one. I think it's a deserved one today. Yeah, I couldn't argue with Ralph on that. 100%. He's absolutely bang on.
Yeah, 100%.
And, Shea Adams knew the shot was destined for the top corner the second it left his boot. Yeah, I'm right with you, Shay, because as soon as you hit it, I thought, pick that one out.
It was. I mean, I know a lot was said about the City goal, but that goal on Saturday, and I know people make more of the City goal because of the opposition as well.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen a better goal.
I think you're probably right.
For a while, for Saints for a while like that.
I'd agree with that.
It was just, and it was plumb. You could see the way he shaped as well, that he was going to hit a plumb.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of gestured to Armstrong to lay it back for him. Stuart Armstrong just chested it brilliant. Beautiful control from Armstrong.
Good control.
Chested it brilliantly. One bounce and Adams is onto it. Bang. It's a phenomenal assist, to be fair, but what a strike. Absolutely brilliant. Nobody was saving that. I don't think even David De Gea would have saved that. It was an absolute stonker.
It was fitting that, I suppose, in some ways, it was fitting that was the last goal of the game,
Oh, absolutely.
Given that Shea had gone through a bit of a barren spell himself. In fact,
it's ironic as well because he doesn't score many, but I tell you what, they're stonkers when he scores them.
Oh, are they ever, mate?
And then he goes on a run as well. Well, we'll get onto it in a minute, but he does go on little runs, doesn't he, once he scores?
Say it. He's now scored 2 and 2.
So he's now scored 2 and 2 because he obviously got on the score sheet against Man City.
That's the thing. He goes. The thing is he. And I think we better get ready for it during his career with Saints. I think he's one of those players that's going to go on and run a scoring. And then he'll have periods where he won't score for a while, Can
I just point something out to people as well? And I think we'll combine the Man City review that we're doing as well, Mark. We'll combine it in with the Sheffield United one because both games were together anyway, so we'll do that. We'll combine the two. For me, if anyone remembers James Beattie when he first started out at Saints, he was a bit like that. He scored in fits and starts. He'd go on a little run, 4 or 5 games, he'd score a few, then he'd go a bit quiet, then he'd score another 4 or 5, go a bit quiet again. It was only really 2 seasons his entire career at Saints that Beattie was actually quite prolific. The rest of the time, he was a bit like Shea. He didn't score. And it's ironic as well that he was his coach at Birmingham, and Shea Adams scores in a similar sort of vein in the fact that he scores some crackers like Beattie used to do. Yeah. But also, like Beattie in his early career, he wasn't scoring every game. No. So it's ironic that his coach at Birmingham, Mark, he's almost a model of him, isn't he, in a way?
Yeah, you can almost sort of track. I mean, I don't want to get too much into
no.
But it's a good analogy, Mark, right? Yeah. What I would say is that when he was at the Dell, he scored every so often. Yeah. Right? And then when he moved to St Mary's, he definitely became more prolific during the St Mary's period, you know? I mean, again, you know, you're so right in what you say, because Shea Adams is a little bit of a mirror, really, because, you know, James scored some cracking goals, much in the same way that Shea does. And it's ironic that you say, you know, coached by him at Birmingham for a while, you know, and you know, the similarities are kind of uncanny. But, you know, just going on, I mean, the Man City game, you know, if we're combining the two, all I'm going to say on the Man City game is it was, I think I was frustrated, to be honest.
I would agree with that.
The first thing to point out is, you know, the people that were calling for it, it's been tried. And we've found out that it doesn't work, okay? Nope. Because even before Ralph joined the club, right, there was a core of our supporters, right, whether they were in the minority or the majority, but there was definitely a core of our supporters that was calling for Jack Stevens to be used as a defensive midfielder, okay? Now, Ralph has tried that, and I think it's been well and truly put to bed. You know, if we're going to play Jack Stevens in the future, right? If we're going to play him in the future, he plays at centre half. He doesn't play anywhere else on the pitch. He doesn't play at right back, and he certainly doesn't play at right back, and he certainly doesn't play as a central, as a defensive midfielder for me.
No, I mean, James Ward-Prowse covered every blade of grass he could possibly cover against Man City. He was all over the show, but he had to be, because the midfield was getting overrun with Jack Stevens in there. It got absolutely overrun. I mean, and it's no surprise. It's no surprise. The goals all came from midfielders for Man City. De Bruyne, Gundogan, Mahrez. I mean, and for me, look, it's disappointing because Saints were in that game right up until the third goal. Saints were right in the contest.
That's the Alex
thing. McCarthy.
The thing is, you're sat there watching the game, Mark, right? And, you know, Saints did well to win the penalty, okay? Yep. James converted it, and you're sat there.
It was a bit of a soft
one. It was one each.
It was a bit of a soft penalty.
We're in this game.
Yep.
You know, we're in this game. And even at
and then
2-1, right? The thing that you would have been saying at 2-1 is let's get in at half time at 2-1, assess the situation, come back out, you know, and apply ourselves in the same manner.
Ironically, you and I were on a watch along saying, let's get to half time at 2-1 because we're still in the game. Yeah. And then Alex McCarthy horror show began.
Well, there was a few of them on Wednesday night. I mean,
he had a mad,
surely,
didn't he?
I mean, I'm not one for telling Ralph how to do his job. No. Surely he's got to look at that situation, because there was, I think it was the third goal, right, where you had pointed out he only had one little bit of the goal that he needed to protect. But then probably the second goal was just as bad, because he pushed the ball out, the oncoming Man City player. And
It was actually it was a diagonal ball. So it's a diagonal ball down the left, which picked out Zinchenko's run down the left. He squared it to Foden in the area. He shot first time across goal. McCarthy puts his left hand out, parries it directly in front of him, straight into the path of De Bruyne. No, he doesn't push it to the side. He parries it straight in front of him, right to De Bruyne's feet. He just goes, "Thank you very much."
It looked. I mean, look. I've got a little bit of a smile, but it looked absolutely horrendous, mate. I mean, I'm trying to get the image out of my head. That's how bad it is, you know. But yeah, I mean, Ralph needs to look at that situation with the goalkeeper. I mean, you know, we've seen in the first half of the Sheffield United game, right, that maybe Fraser was a little bit apprehensive, right?
Yeah.
But certainly by the second half, he was coming for balls and, you know, doing what needed to be done. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not one to tell Ralph his job, but I think the time's come to give Fraser his head. Absolutely. You know, give him his opportunity to establish himself back as the number one goalkeeper at Saints.
Thing is, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Ralph made 6 changes. He's obviously rotated it with review on Sunday, which is a massive game against Brighton.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And, you know, look, if we go out on Sunday...
Mark, the thing is, I agree with the changes. I agree with all the changes, to be fair.
The point I was making was, nothing to be ashamed of in the result, in the fact that if it hadn't been for the fact our goalkeeper had a calamitous afternoon or evening, we were in that game without our first choice 11. So 6 changes made. Wasn't our strongest team.
Yeah.
But we gave a really good account of ourselves, and we were very unlucky due to the calamitous situation with Alex McCarthy. We were very unlucky to be behind at half time and to lose by that scoreline absolutely flattered Man City because they barely even got out first gear.
100%.
We played very well, to be fair. If we can play as well as that with a stronger team against Brighton on Sunday, then I'm confident we get 3 points. But and then the Man City result doesn't really matter.
I'm really happy, right? If he rested, I mean, it's obvious he rested Kyle Walker-Peters, right? Because you just didn't want to run the risk of him getting injured again. He is that important, right? Yep. Obviously, Milaminu didn't play for the same reasons, right? Yep. And I'm assuming that the reason why he decided not to play Fraser was because he's rested him for the next 2 games, because they are major that they'll shape our season, you know. I mean, you know, we've got Brighton on Sunday.
Yep.
Doing kick-off, people, if you didn't know.
Yep.
Right, and then you know the Bournemouth game, quarterfinals FA Cup, and that's the following Saturday at 12:15. You know, and the thing is I won't have a problem as long as I see, you know, Fraser in those 2 games, I see Milaminu playing in those 2 games, and I see Kyle Walker-Peters playing in those 2 games, and then I'll think the selection was vindicated. You know, as long as he plays them in all those games, then that selection for me on Wednesday night was vindicated. But
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that night, that brings us really nicely to the end of the review of Saints 2, Sheffield United 0, and Man City 5, Saints 2. So, we're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll do Saints club news for you.
It's the 2 Marks, C&H, on the 2 Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Saints club news. Ralph Hasenhüttl's informed everyone that Danny Ings is out for about 3 weeks with what is a suspected groin problem. Ralph Hasenhüttl was praised Nathan Teller. The B team lost 3-1 to Blackburn Rovers. The under-18s drew 1-1 with West Ham. Southampton FC women are in the Vitality FA Cup action again in April, which is great news for them. Southampton support level playing field. Saints celebrate 1 million followers on Instagram. Train at home with the Saints coaching hub is launched, and Sportsbet.io goal of the month for February. So Danny Ings out for about 3 weeks, Mark, by the looks of it. So he's back fit after the international break, allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, basically he missed City the other night, and he'll miss Bournemouth and Brighton games.
Yep.
So,
well, on the plus side, Danny, it gives you enough time to work out what you need in your contract in order for you to stay at Saints, so you can sign it.
I mean, the thing is if there was a time for him to get injured and come back, it is actually probably now, even though the next 2 games are pivotal in the season. But the thing is he's also got the international break to recuperate. So, hopefully by the time that the international break's over, he's back ready and firing on all cylinders. But, yes, I mean, you would hope that maybe there might be other discussions going on during that period with the football club, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. So, Ralph Hasenhüttl was full of praise for youngster Nathan Teller after he played a significant role in Saints' 2-0 victory at Sheffield United. The 21-year-old only started his second Premier League match, played up front at Bramall Lane, caused all sorts of problems for the home team with his bursting runs through the middle after half an hour being the catalyst for the crucial breakthrough. Yet, Ralph said, this energetic young guy is one of the jewels we have in our academy. I'd like to push him. I think he showed today that as a striker, he's not so easy to defend. Yeah, as an attacking player, he certainly proved a thorn in Sheffield United side. And long may it continue. And he does actually look as though he's the one, Mark, as you said, that might actually step up from the academy and turn a few heads.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing is that the sad thing, I suppose, with him, Mark, is that he actually didn't come through our academy. We picked them up in the Arsenal exit trials. But having said that, he does look that he's head, there's been false dawns before. And, I'm talking about since Matt Target, which was the last one really to make.
I was thinking about Nathan Teller, and I was trying to think of players that he reminded me of early days, very early doors. And he reminds me of a very, very early days Alec Chamberlain, very, very early in his career, before he sort of really broke through.
Right.
He's got that little bit about him that Alex had about him.
Funny you said that, right? Because one of the youngsters that I really rated, and we never got to see the best of him. Swansea did though. Was Nathan Dyer.
Yep.
And that is, funnily enough, who he reminds me of, is a little bit of Nathan Dyer.
Well, it's not bad company to be in, is it? Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Nathan Dyer. You can emulate those two. You haven't done too bad.
Definitely not. But the thing is, and it's in his locker. His secret weapon is his searing pace.
Oh yeah.
And there's no reason against the likes of Brighton who don't. Ben White worries me a bit because he's more mobile than, say, Lewis Dunk, okay?
Yeah.
But the likes of Dan Burn aren't particularly quick to play for Brighton, so he should have a field day there, and hopefully with some of the Bournemouth, centre-halves, like of the Chris Methams and people like that, because of his pace, he should have a field day.
The thing is, Mark, if he can add goals to his pace, we could have another Rob Wallace on our hands. I'll take some of that. Thank you very much.
I mean, the secret, definitely the secret with him, mate, is, it's a modern day tactic in football, right? It's the ball in behind.
Oh yeah.
If the ball's played to him, it's played in behind that area where centre backs don't like to go.
Yep.
And he's quickly latching on to it, It all bodes well.
Oh, yeah, and if anybody wanted to know where his runs in behind were coming from without Shane Long in the team, we might have found one.
Yeah, we might have the,
Possibly.
Sometimes they say only smarties have the answer, but we might have the answer on this podcast.
Well, you never know. Anyway, so Saints B team lost 3-1 to Blackburn Rovers, Mark, and the youngsters, the under-18s, drew 1-1 with West Ham. So definitely a better result for the under-18s. Poor from the B team again, though.
I know, 100%. I mean, it was 5-2 they lost, I think it was, wasn't it? 5-2?
3-1.
Well, 3-1. Well, a little bit better than I thought it was then. But having said that, I mean, I don't know what I can really say about the B team now, because I don't get to go and see them, right? It's very rarely that they stream the games, which is another bugbear of mine. I've got to say, Mark, they should be, the club should be streaming the B games when they play. whether
perhaps you should email support relations, Mark.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, and it's a sense of frustration for me because I like to go and watch the B team. But all I would say is it's disappointing, and it looks like relegation's on the cards there.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe that's not a bad thing.
Teams that don't have relegation, which is a godsend. So they can't get relegated. But the B team, I think, relegation's on the cards. I mean, the thing
maybe that's what the B team needs.
I find it strange that when you have championship clubs in there, like obviously Blackburn that we played, right?
Yeah.
And Derby, they will put more experienced players in.
Yep.
Right? Because you are allowed to play overage players, right?
Yep.
But I get our philosophy, but I just think to myself, sometimes are we dumbing ourselves down by putting, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds in, in what essentially is an under-23s league?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
I don't see where you're breeding confidence, right? It's still a team game, right? And okay, they might be able to pick out their individual better players, the coaches, right? From the B team, but at the end of the day, it's still a team game, and I still say that if you're not winning games of football at that stage, because the B team's not about development for me. That happens when you're in the under-18s, okay? Yeah. And I don't see where, if you're losing every week, where's that bringing any confidence to you?
Exactly.
Because it's all in the mindset, as you always say.
Psychology.
It's in the mindset.
It's psychology. It is psychology. Psychology is as much a bigger part of football these days as effort and skill.
I don't care if you go on a losing streak. Yep. You never get it back. You don't. Nope.
That's right. Absolutely. Right, moving on. Talking about teams that do have winning runs and are very consistent. Southampton women. The FA have today confirmed that Southampton FC Women's Vitality FA Cup campaign will be allowed to resume next month, with potential fixtures against Plymouth Argyle, Yeovil and Lewes FC. Their season was halted at the back end of last year following government advice, and while the league season remained on pause, their exploits in the Cup will continue in April. Marianne Spacey Cow's side face a second-round match with Plymouth Argyle on Sunday 4th of April, before potentially facing Keynsham Town or Yeovil in the third round, followed by Lewes in the fourth round, should they progress. There will be a further review of the competition should national lockdown and government restrictions be extended beyond the 29th of March. In such circumstances, the FA will issue a further update. Great news, Mark.
Well, let's hope they're not, but it is fantastic news. I want to start playing Fiesta by the Pogues now, because
I think we'll.
Hopefully the fact that they're resuming the FA Cup will mean at some stage they'll resume the league.
So, yeah, all I'm going to say is yeah, anyway.
So thank you for that musical interlude, but no, in all seriousness, right? I mean, my greatest hope on the back of the restart in the FA Cup is that the league starts up in some form, even if it's a reduced number of matches. And they get their hands on the trophy and they finally get that promotion, because the girls really deserve it. And again, if the opportunity arrives at some point, I'll go down there and watch them. I believe that all the season tickets got snapped up that were in that much. About 300 or something like that? So probably wouldn't get in much, to be fair. But
no, very, very true.
But no, I mean, the thing is it's great that they're back. I mean, to be honest with you, that's probably the one really, really big positive at the minute with the club. I mean, yes, the first team's doing well, but I mean, the women really do deserve a lot of credit, mate, to be honest. And I just want to mention, I did think that the 1-1 draw that the under-18s got, Mark, was very credible. And I was pleased for them, because as I say, that again is a different side to football, where it is about development and it is about nurturing, and it also is about confidence, and it is, I'm going to say it again, it's still about results,
Yep,
so
100%.
hopefully the fact that they got the draw, at the weekend gives them the shot in the arm that they need,
Yeah, 100%. So moving on from there, Southampton Football Club is proud to have been once again supported in the Level Playing Field Weeks of Action, which ends on the 14th of March. They're not only used to highlight notable developments, but also to provide inspiration to organisations on how they can improve. Level Playing Field seeks to promote a positive and inclusive experience for disabled sports fans during its Weeks of Action. So it's all about access and inclusion. So, yep, well done Southampton Football Club supporting that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Saints also celebrated 1 million followers on Instagram.
Yeah, all I'm going to say on that is, if you haven't heard of Level Playing Field, go and check them out. They are a good organisation.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Saints also celebrated 1 million followers on Instagram, which means absolutely nothing to me.
So, Mark, is that 1 million? Just clarify for this, because obviously we spoke about it on our radio show.
So this is basically...
Just for people that don't know.
Right, so this is basically 1 million people since its inception. So since the day it launched until now, 1 million people have engaged with that page. That doesn't mean there's 1 million Saints fans. It's just literally 1 million people have engaged with that page. That's it. That's not fans.
Yes, but let the listeners
and 2,000 of those are probably
you said
bots,
to me off. Yeah, you said about bots, didn't you?
2,000 are probably bots.
Because I was sat there and I said to you, "Come on, let the listeners in the secret." I said to you, "There's not 1 million Saints supporters out there in the world. I'm not buying it."
Well, if there is, I'd like a couple of them that are quite well off to step forward and invest in the club, please.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, Utilita, with one of obviously Saints' official energy partner, are supporting grassroots football by launching the Saints Coaching Hub. To help launch the hub, Saints first team trio Shay Adams, Jack Stevens and Carl Walker-Peters surprised local team Littleton Junior during one of the regular online coaching sessions with Saints Foundation. So another really good initiative by Saints Foundation, launching online coaching, Mark.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's important across the board, whatever age you are, given the situation that we're in. Again, it helps with people's well-being. So, again, like you said, another great initiative by the charitable arm of the football club, the Saints Foundation. So, well done, Greg and his volunteers.
Absolutely right. So moving on now to the Sportsbet.io goal of the month for February. So you've got James Ward-Prowse's strike against Newcastle, Danny Ings' volley from Stuart Armstrong's cross against Wolves, and Kazim Alegbe's goal for the youngsters, which was, I must admit, against Man United. And it is an absolute belter from the edge of the area, right in the top corner. Yes. Bends it away from the keeper.
I think he's the next,
and it's actually my favourite.
I think Kazim's the next one after Nathan Teller, if I'm honest. If he keeps scoring goals like that, people will start taking notice, that's for sure.
Damn right there, Mark. Absolutely right. Yep.
I mean, for anybody that hasn't seen the goals, just go on the club's website, have a look, okay? Now, you sit there and you go, yeah, Danny Ings, quality goal, right? You sit there and you go, Ward-Prowse. Some people might say standard, but I still say quality free kick, right? But when you see Kasim's goal, you just think, there's your winner. There's your winner. Winner, yep. Chicken dinner.
Absolutely right. So that brings us to the end of Saints Club News. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back in the second half, we'll be doing other football news, Saints in the press and Saints transfer gossip, and the Two Saints preview of Saints versus Brighton and Hove Albion. We'll be right back.
The Two Saints Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday for informative football chat and great tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. So, other football news. Managers, ins and outs, and new contracts. Mick McCarthy, manager signs new Cardiff City deal. Harry Kewell sacked as Oldham manager after 7 months in charge. Derek McGuinness exits Aberdeen after 8 years. Joachim Low is to leave Germany manager role after the European Championships. Stephen Gerrard says more to come after Scottish Premiership title win. And then after that we have Coventry City confirming their return to the Ricoh Arena. And Patrick Van Aanholt, Crystal Palace defender, racially abused on social media. So first one of those, Mark, was obviously Mick McCarthy signing a new Cardiff City deal.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, Mark, he's been a revelation since he's come back into English football.
Ain't done bad, has he?
Welsh football, if you like. Because basically, I mean, Terry Connor himself went out to Cyprus, and it was a bit of a disaster. And he's come back, and he's absolutely revitalised Cardiff. I mean, the thing is, you know, most commentators were saying that there needed to be a root and branch approach in terms of, you know, changing around the playing staff and all that there.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously Neil Harris was struggling with them, bearing in mind that I think that they'd finished in the playoffs or just outside the playoffs last season. But, you know, Big Mick McCarthy's going in there. He's got a tune out of the players. I mean, Kiefer Moore has been scoring goals for them left, right and centre.
Yep.
You know, I mean, always was going to come good anyway. I mean, he's a good striker at the end of the day. But, yeah, I mean, they've been playing some great stuff under Mick McCarthy, and am I surprised that a new contract was offered? No, I'm not. I believe that him and Terry Connor only had a contract till the end of the season, till this, you know, till Cardiff seen where they were. So, you know, good luck to him, and
definitely
best foot forward and all that. And then obviously we move on to Harry Kewell. I mean, this one's a bit of a baffler for me, because the last job he had was sort of it was a no-win situation because he took over at Crawley, okay? And he did do a decent job at Crawley. And then obviously Oldham have obviously appointed him, and they're obviously hoping, let's not be struggling in League One. You know, this will be the man that sort of progresses.
Yep.
Maybe as a secure League One side, you know, pushing maybe for the playoffs. But it just seems to have backfired completely. And you do wonder as well, you know, from Harry Kewell's personal point of view, after being fired by Oldham, you do wonder where his managerial career now goes. You know, because you sort of sit there and you think, he's not going to get a chance at a bigger club in this country unless he goes to manage in, dare I say, Australia. You know, but you do wonder what's sort of going to happen there. But I'll watch it with interest, see what happens with
maybe him. Who knows, Mark? Maybe he'll end up north of the border.
I mean, that's always a possibility. There's lots of people that have gone north of the border, you know, after struggling in England, you know, and they've revitalised their careers as manager, and then they've come back down south to manage, you know.
Absolutely. And
so then we've got Derek.
Talking north of the border, Derek McInnes.
Oh, man,
I know you're an Aberdeen fan as well, Mark. I know Aberdeen's your Scottish team. I
talk too much about this on the radio, but as you know, the only other passion I have, apart from obviously Saints and Distillery, which was my local team over, but they're rubbish. I mean, you might as well go watch kids play on Southampton Common, but you know, they're still close to my heart. But obviously, the other thing that I'm passionate about is Aberdeen, because like in Southampton, I have an aunt and uncle, or I did have an aunt and uncle. I've got an aunt. You know, in Aberdeen, I had an aunt and uncle, and only my uncle's still alive up there.
Yeah.
And when I heard the news, the other thing that surprised me about it, now that I've had time to sort of get my head around it and listen to one or two things, the manager never even got the opportunity to say goodbye to the players. It was that quick of a decision. And I'll be honest with you, Mark. I mean, you look at the stats, and yes, we've been struggling, right? But it's like I sit there and I think to myself, effectively, Derek McGuinness over the last 8-9 seasons, he's got Aberdeen back to being sort of the third best. And really, that's all Aberdeen can hope for, because you're never going to break the old firm dominance. That's the thing. It's not going to happen. And I think the treatment of him and the way he was dismissed, it sticks in my claw. When I heard that he wasn't able to address the players, and the players didn't know anything about it until it came up on news, and you just sort of sit and think, in modern times, that's not the best way for a manager to leave a football club. But
I agree with that.
The other crazy thing, and that this is just nonsense, it's nonsense, right? And, and I'll say this on the pod as well. I mean, I was listening to a discussion they were having, and they had a bloke on who does, apparently he's responsible for an Aberdeen podcast, and he's part of the Aberdeen supporters, right? And the nonsense that was, I mean, sometimes I think our Saints fans are deluded. You wanted to hear this bloke. This bloke was going on about, when he was asked, who he wanted in charge at Aberdeen, he goes, Eddie Howe. I thought, nah, Eddie Howe. I mean,
well, Eddie wants a job in the Premier League, so he's out like that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure the Aberdeen board are hoping to be ambitious with their appointment, but Eddie Howe doesn't travel well anyway. He gets seasick on the road to London.
Oh, he went to Burnley, he couldn't hack it, went back to Bournemouth. Come on, He's not going to be handling. He couldn't handle it. Burnley's cold enough. He won't be able to handle it in Scotland. It's even colder.
Could you imagine him in Aberdeen? He's only a couple of miles from the oil fields, for goodness sake.
Also, Eddie Howe's got his heart set on the Premier League, so good luck with that.
Yeah, no, 100. But again, sometimes you just sit there and you think about the mindset of some supporters. You just think, you are not on planet Earth, my friend.
I think Eddie Howe going to Aberdeen is about as likely as Joachim Low coming to the Premier League after he leaves his Germany post after the Euros.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Which is obviously our next story.
100%, because I think but before he gets here, and he will come here, it's funny when obviously we'll speak about Joachim Low now, but it's funny you mentioned that, but my thoughts on it is in the longer term, Joachim Low will turn up in the Premier League, but I think he may cut his teeth at one of the top Bundesliga clubs first. He may even be tempted, dare I say, to try and turn around Schalke's fortunes. I mean, they've took a massive nosedive. I mean, they're heading in the Bundesliga too. Yeah. So you might even be tempted to turn around, a club like that, because it's a fairly big size club,
Yeah, no, fair enough.
But having said that, I mean, I think it's more than likely that he might actually get the Borussia Dortmund job, because things are a little bit up in the air there.
Well, we'll see what happens on that one. Anyway, somebody who's moving ever onwards and ever upwards, Stephen Gerrard. He says there's more to come after Scottish Premiership win with Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, this one's so hard to gauge, mate, because to be honest with you, it looked like it was on the cards from fairly early doors, right? And then there was setbacks in the Celtic camp because of different coronavirus things being broken, much like it was up in Aberdeen. And then you had the fiasco of them going out to Dubai.
Yep.
Right? And the Furorian consternation that caused, because everybody was COVID-free before they went out.
Yeah.
And then they came back and two of the players had COVID. So you're sort of sitting there thinking, there's an advert for not going anywhere.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And when the government says stay at home, that's why they're saying stay at home, don't go anywhere.
It's not difficult.
But, and I know that caused consternation within the Scottish government. Everything is supposed to could go wrong for Celtic this season. And then on the flip side of that, everything that could go right for Rangers went right. And I think as well that, Rangers they've bought well they've recruited well over the last few seasons. And of course, Stephen Gerrard has a few wise heads around him. I mean, Gary McAllister's there. He's got some sort of guru there as well. I've never heard the name of this bloke, but the recruitment by them has been really good, And the thing is they've bought players in for not a lot of money, and the squad now, you look at the squad now, and obviously they've all increased in value. You have the English players like James Tenier. You've got Connor Goldston, who used to play for Brighton, is up at Rangers, both English. You've got the midfielder Kamara that I know Saints were looking at last summer just gone. You've also got the likes of, our own Stephen Davis, ex-Saints player, went back up there. And I know he's back enjoying playing football again, because obviously he wasn't getting the game time with us, unfortunately.
It really pleases he's won the title with him as well.
And you've got a few experienced heads in there. I mean, Alan McGregor, who he went back to play for Rangers and stuff like that. So, as I say, it's been a good win for them. And, I dare say that Gerrard will build on the success. I think with Celtic, we won't really see anything until they appoint the new manager. I mean, obviously, they've brought John Kennedy in there, who's Celtic through and through, and he'll be looking to sort of obviously try and improve results between now and the end of the season. But, yeah, whoever goes in at Celtic, I think it might be a bit of a rebuilding job, whoever the manager is.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So we move on to Coventry City, and they've confirmed after a 10-year absence their return to the Ricoh Arena, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, look, mate, this has been an absolute disaster. And thankfully, we never took on Sisu.
Oh,
because don't forget the trade.
Yeah, we were close. We were very lucky.
I mean, it was. All I would say as well was it was a little bit, the people that own Coventry, but it was also a little bit to do with Wasps Rugby Club, who, funnily enough, Mark, originate from North London, right? But they're playing there because they couldn't find a home and they got a home in the Ricoh Arena. They couldn't agree, as I understand it, they couldn't agree about rents and leases and stuff like that there. So effectively, Coventry City got bucked out, and they then went on they went back for a period of time, but during that time, they played at the Sixfields Stadium at Northampton Town, and then the worst thing ever, for the last 2 seasons, they've been playing against one of their rivals, Birmingham, playing at one of their rivals' grounds, Birmingham City, St Andrews.
Crazy.
And I know that there's a group of Coventry fans that will not set foot in St Andrews. So it's just fantastic, mate, that they're back and playing in the city.
Certainly.
And I'm so pleased for the Coventry City fans that have stuck by the club, and just so pleased for them that their club is back playing in their city.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, some slightly Disturbing news, not as good as the Coventry news. Patrick Van Arnholt, the Crystal Palace defender, racially abused on social media. Yes, people, it's back again because it's happened yet again.
All I'm going to say on it, Mark, is when, you know, and I include everybody on this here, but when people stop taking the knee, right?
Yep.
I've still to hear what these different clubs or individuals are doing, right? Other than not taking the knee. Until somebody comes up with something that's much more effective or whatever it would be, please keep taking the knee because it's still happening. And until you absolutely ram the message down people's throats, they're not going to get it. I just, you know, I don't know where you're meant to go with it. And I just think to myself, at the end of the day, just keep taking the knee. Because while it's still happening, you've got to take the knee because nobody else has come up with anything. I'm not seeing anything else that anybody's come up with that's any better.
No, I get that. Totally get that. So, moving on. Hege Risa, the interim England boss, to take charge of Team GB at the Tokyo Olympics. She did actually win gold as a player with Norway in 2000, but says she's honoured and humbled to be named as head coach of Team GB's women's football team at this summer's Tokyo Olympics. She'll combine the job with her current role as interim England boss and will be assisted by Ryan Wilkinson, who works in a support role with the Lionesses, with another coach yet to be announced.
All I'm going to say on this, Mark, and I know this is going to bring a smile to your face, right? I get the whole continuity thing, right? Because most of the GB squad is going to be made up of English players.
Yep.
But, right, there's a but, and you knew there was going to be a but, right? Shelley Proven, the Scotland manager, left, right? So they've only just recently had a new manager. Wales have only just recently had a new manager, right? England have an interim manager. It's not even the permanent manager. It's an interim manager, right? And she's being given the honour of taking GB, not England, GB to the Olympics, right? And all I'm going to say to you, and I know it's going to sound like me being biased here, right? Or me getting on a soapbox, which it isn't, right? But all I'll point out to you is Kenny Shields, along with his son Dean Shields, has been in charge of Northern Ireland for the last 2 years. And it baffles me that because he's been in post for that long, you know, that it's not even it doesn't sound to me like it was even a consideration. And I just sit there and although I get the continuity thing and I wish the GB team all the best. Of course, you know, I want to see them win gold at the end of the day, you know, but I get the continuity thing, but I just sit there and I think for Kenny Shields not to be given any sort of consideration and considering that a lot of, you know, the Northern Ireland team as well, they all have full-time jobs. You know, that's the other important thing to say. So it's a heck of an achievement for them to get to the playoffs, which I know you're going to touch on next.
How will we?
But, you know, good luck to GB. And let's hope that there's a fair smattering of players from all the home nations.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and speaking of home nations, Northern Ireland are to face Ukraine in the playoff of the Euro 2022 women's finals. So Kenny Shields' side will travel to Ukraine in the first leg for hosting a reverse fixture in a bid to reach a first ever major tournament. 2 legs scheduled to take place between 7th and the 13th of April. However, they weren't originally scheduled to play the Ukraine, were they, Mark?
No.
Fix.
Before people think I'm being partisan, this is why I raised this.
There's no bias here, but there was a fix.
It was nothing to do with the fact that Northern Ireland actually drew the Ukraine. It was more to do with the fact that I was watching the draw live, right? And Ukraine actually came out to play Russia, right? And UEFA decided that Russia couldn't play the Ukraine. So the next team out of the hat was then going to be scheduled to play Ukraine, and it was Northern Ireland. Now, it's a little bit like Israel being in the European section, when it comes to draws and stuff like that there. And I've always been an advocate of politics and sport should mix.
Yep.
And it's such a shame. It's such a shame that Russia aren't playing the Ukraine, because at least that way through sport you're breaking down barriers, Mark.
No, I agree with you, Mark. I think on that one. So anyway, moving on. The Maracanã Stadium is set to be renamed after Pele.
This is fantastic news, mate.
Thank God they're doing it while
honestly, as soon as I read this, I thought, thank goodness for that. For once, you don't have to have snuffed it before you get, the invite or the call or whatever you want to call it.
Thanks, FC. Hurry up and get a statue of Laurie put up.
You see, exactly, mate. Why do people have to be dead before they get honoured? Do you know what I mean? But I just think it's fantastic news. And like you, we're both of a similar kind of age. Yep. The one thing that always sticks out in my mind about the American is the John Barnes goal.
Oh, 100%.
Unfortunately, England supporters then expected him to do that every time he put on an England shirt, which was grossly unfair, to be fair. It was such a good goal. Such a good goal. But anyway,
brilliant.
We digress. But no, it's fantastic news. And hopefully, besides the stadium being named after him, there's bound to be, dare I say, once he passes, right, loads of statues put up. But you're right to make the point, Mark, that, let's see a statue of Laurie up there outside St Mary's.
He's already got his chairman then.
So that he can appreciate it, and we can all enjoy it before he passes.
It won't be difficult, and if anybody remembers Laurie well enough, they'll also remember that he did during one game or during one season, he did a very, very similar post to what his chairman did in the statue that's outside St Mary's. Laurie's done an almost identical gesture at one point during his Saints career as manager. So maybe you could mirror image what Ted Bates has done, Saints, and get a statue of Laurie up with his arm up to the fans. A bit like Ted Bates. Put them side by side because that's where they should be.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there's no two people that have had a greater impact on our beloved football club.
Exactly why those statues should be side by side. 100%.
No, 100%, mate. And the other thing, just in case, there's people out there, I mean, there's loads of examples of grounds up and down the country where they've got more than one statue outside the ground. I mean, one place that springs to mind is Ipswich Town, where Alf Ramsey was manager and they won the First Division Championship under him, right? And so they've got a statue of him outside the ground. And they also have the statue of Bobby Robson.
Yeah.
Because obviously of the success that he had in the league and in Europe with them.
See.
Winning the UEFA Cup.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to the final story in this section. Gordon McQueen's daughter Hayley wants a limit on heading after her father's dementia diagnosis. Hayley McQueen says there should be a change in the football laws to limit heading after her father, former Scotland defender Gordon, was diagnosed with vascular dementia. McQueen wants future generations of footballers to be better protected now the risks are more widely known. You don't go into football thinking you're going to get brain damage, she said. There are lots of footballers out there now thinking, is it me next? McQueen, a sports journalist and broadcaster, told BBC Breakfast Sally Nugent her father has no regrets about his career because no one knew of the potential risks. I don't think I realised how much my dad used his head, said McQueen. I didn't realise that it was over and over and over in training for years and years. You go back to childhood and heading the ball against a brick wall because if you didn't have anyone to play with, that's what you did. There have been moments when I said, I can't believe the thing that's given him so much love has so cruelly taken so much away from him. He scored some memorable headers. One of the pictures at home is him leaping into the air and scoring against Liverpool, and he's very proud of that. But he says he would have done things different in training if they were warned. You can't get angry about that. There's no one to blame. They didn't know. But we now know, and someone will be to blame if they don't do something about it. Absolutely right. And somebody will be responsible. Blood literally will be on someone's hands if they're not sorting this issue out. it's an ongoing issue. It's gone on for far too long. It does need to be sorted out.
I mean, I think they've already decided that there is going to be limited head and training, haven't they? But obviously, you can't. The thing is, you can't do much about what goes on the pitch when the ball's up in the air. That's the only thing. But all I'd say there, Mark, is beautifully read, mate. But yeah, it's the thing is I don't know Gordon McQueen personally, but he just seems like the sort of individual, he loved his career as a footballer, yeah, and all he's saying is the nice thing to hear is he's not bitter about it in any way, and they're not bitter about it, but they do want safeguards put in place for future generations, because like Haley says in the article, when Gordon was playing and when I was a kid, you didn't know that the damage that you're doing when you're heading. But like she said, and we had many a tall central defender ourselves that was always up in the head balls. I think of my beloved Chris Nicholl, who's going through something similar at the minute.
Dave Watson.
And Dave Watson. So we all know that it's commonplace and it's out there, and it's affecting a certain generation, as I would say, of footballers, and it'll continue the effects will continue to be felt as younger footballers get older. So it's not going to go away anytime soon. This is here for probably the next 30 odd years, and it isn't until they start reducing things. And I don't know how much you can do on the pitch, but certainly reducing it and training and everything else would be, it's a start. It's a start. And of course, all the football authorities need to do much more than what they're doing. But I'm not going to beat them too much about it, because I think they're now fully aware of that situation, Mark, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's up to them to grasp the nettle and run with it and make sure that things are done and safeguards are put in place.
Yeah, it's got to be done. And I'm kind of glad that Dawn Astl's heading up that sort of task force, as they called it. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Right, that brings us to the end of that section. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do Saints in the Press and Saints transfer gossip.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. Saints in the Press and Saints transfer gossip. There isn't actually any transfer gossip, but that's the heading we normally use for this section. So, Saints in the Press. At the moment, our psychologists are our wives at home, says Ralph Hasenhüttl. Ralph Hasenhüttl calls quarantine rules for players nonsense. Matt Letizia, Saints seem to believe in Hasenhüttl. Ralph Hasenhüttl, you get more pressure when you're not committing to one way. He feels Danny Ings can handle speculation about his future. Ralph Hasenhüttl reflects on 100 games in charge of Saints. And Ralph Hasenhüttl also saying next season we have to have a bigger squad. And the very last article is from the Daily Mail relating to Jamaica and the fact they're plotting to call up to 10 England stars, including Michael Antonio, Damari Gray and Max Aarons. But we're also led to believe Nathan Redmond has been touted as a possible recruit for the Jamaican national team. Well, he's certainly not going to play for England, so it's probably his best
He's going to be one of the reggae boys.
So, at the moment, psychologists are our wives at home, says Ralph Hasenhüttl. Psychology is a massive part of the game, Mark. I can't say I'm surprised he's saying that, but all I would question is what sort of advice they're giving the players. And Alex McCarthy's wife must be having a right old torrid time of it.
Well, I mean, you do wonder. I get the sentiment of what Ralph's trying to portray there, but then you kind of think, hang on a minute. If the wife potentially could be having a bit of a go. I mean, or the partner could be having a bit of a go. Can you imagine if you're a striker, right? You've wandered into the house, right? And say like a Shea Adams, you haven't scored for about 8 or 9 games, right? The wife for the partner sitting there going, Shay, you need to get your act together. You need to be start hitting the onion bag a bit more often,
What's going on, Sage? Do you want to talk to me about it?
Either way, because I know a few outspoken women would be a bit like that with their partner.
I could just see it. Ryan Bertrand. Ryan, how you doing? I've noticed you've been struggling for form a little bit the last few games, Ryan. Would you like to come and lay on the couch and tell me all about it?
Well, mind you, he was probably shocked on Wednesday night because I think he had a spell on Wednesday night at right back.
He did, yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system.
No, it was just one of those things, I picked up on. And, don't get me wrong, like most partners and wives are probably encouraging to their spouses and stuff like that.
Yeah, look, we're not belittling anybody who needs a psychologist, everybody, just to point out. We're just having a bit of fun, okay? No offence intended to anyone. Just a bit tongue-in-cheek.
It's a serious subject.
Yeah, of course it is.
Of course, who are you going to lean on while you're in lockdown? I mean, I would say you're way more likely to go to your partner or your wife than
of course you will.
Probably even to go to the manager. And you may talk to the manager about football matters, but you probably go home and confide more in the wife in that sort of sense,
Yeah, and talking about psychologists and this and that and things that affect you and things that you don't. Ralph Hasenhuttl has called the quarantine rules for players nonsense. He's also refused to allow players to go on international duty due to the quarantine rules. So, over to you, Mark.
Right. Well, let's deal with the two separate issues, Mark, right? Because I don't think I made this very clear in the radio show, right? The point that I was making was I agree with Ralph in the sense of in this situation, because of the way the quarantine rules are, right, to me, nobody from our football club goes on international duty unless it's a home game, and when I say home game, I'm talking about home internationals, I'm talking about that sort of thing, unless they're playing on British soil. But even then, there's a risk to the team that's travelling in to play them. So, look, the bottom line for me would be, I'm totally with Ralph. I don't think anybody should be called up for any of these international games. I think having international games in the current climate is a nonsense. I don't care whether it's, an important fixture, like a World Cup qualifier or something like that, or whether it's a friendly, I wouldn't be having them, right? But I wouldn't be having them for the simple reason is there's quarantine rules there. And why should it be any different for you or me or any individual that listens to this podcast, right? I don't think it should be any different for any of us than what it is for a footballer, right? So they should have to go through the same quarantine that everybody else is having to go through at the moment.
We move on to the next article. Saints legend Matt Le Tissier insisted Ralph Hasenhuttl has not come under pressure despite the club's wretched run of Premier League form. I haven't heard any rumblings from within the football club that there's talk that he's about to lose his job. You're not kidding, Sherlock. How long did it take you to work that one out, Matt? Because the rest of us worked it out some time ago.
But you see, I blame the mainstream media for that, right? I even blame the local press because that is blatantly people just going along the map, picking up the phone and going, hello, it's such and such from such and such a paper, right? What have you heard, Matt? Because we're getting rumblings here that, he's going to be out the door. You know what I mean? Yeah. Matt Le Tissier he might be an ambassador for the football club, but trust me, right? And he's an ex-player, right?
Yep.
But ex-players, right, and being ambassadors of the football club doesn't mean that you have any more inside information than Joe blogs on the street.
To be fair, it's probably more a case of, Matt, we're led to believe, Matt, that somebody's going to be questioning you within the next couple of days, asking you what your take is on the situation with Ralph. Can you just go and trot out your normal line that, as far as you know, everything's at the club's fine and there's no rumblings of anything going on? The usual stuff you do because you're an ambassador for the foundation. Can you just, let them know if it's fine? Yeah, not a problem, lads. Not a problem. Pleasure to help. Thanks, Matt.
It's a nonsense, Mark, isn't it? It really is a nonsense. It's like people scrambling around for a story, right? And you wouldn't go to Matt Le Tissier if you were looking for a story anyway, because Matt Le Tissier will play a straight bat. it's like you don't go to Frolly for a story.
Yeah.
You know, you might go to somebody like Darren Bent, say, for a story, because he comes out with some whoppers, like.
Because he talks absolute nonsense.
Do you know what I mean? But, especially the well-respected people around Southampton Football Club, they're not going to come out and give you anything that's sensational.
If Matt gave any sort of indication of anything, he'd be looking at the way former ex-Saints have been treated by the club in the past, and he'll be sat there going, there's no way I'm opening my mouth. I'm just going to toe the line. I'm going to be a good boy.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll move on from there.
And the other thing to say is he's a club man. Anyway, anybody who breaks lines aren't really loyal to their clubs. You know, the thing is, and I'm quite proud of that, most the majority of Saints players, if not all the Saints players, are very, very loyal to the football club.
Absolutely right. So we've got 3 more articles related to Ralph Hasenhüttl saying that you get more pressure when you're not committing to one way. Ralph feels that Danny Ings can handle speculation about his future. Ralph Hasenhüttl reflected on 100 games in charge. His 100th game was against Sheffield United, which obviously we won. And also saying that next season we have to have a bigger squad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna comment on the Danny Ings thing. I don't really follow the train of thought, because I still don't feel that. You know, I get that he's probably saying if he's scoring goals, he's generating more interest. But I personally think that come the summer there'll be enough interest in him anyway for him to get a move. If that's what he's looking for, we don't know. We're just talking about speculation here. Hopefully that isn't the case. But I would have thought by now there's enough of an interest in him, for someone, probably a team in Europe next season to put an offer in, and then we'll go on to, Ralph's 100 games in charge. I mean, all I would say is for me personally, during that time, there's actually been more highs than there's been lows. Now, that might sound strange given, what happened last season, what's happened recently. But I still take great joy from, the things like the win away at Leicester, right? After losing by that horrific score, winning there. Right, and take great satisfaction during this period of time of beating Tottenham, at home, which we don't do that often, and he's done it twice now. Yep. There's the Danny Ings parlour that you can't shut up about, and also there was the game that got turned on its head where Harry Kane had scored. They come one up. It looked like Kevin Frame was given the majority of the decisions in the first half to Tottenham. We didn't look like we were getting the stick. And then it completely turned on its head in the second half. And that long forgotten name, Josh Sims, helped to turn it round for us.
He did.
I mean, the roof nearly came off the stadium that day. I swear to God it did.
Yeah, I seem to remember a quite stonking free kick from a certain captain of ours. It gave Lloris no chance whatsoever. So I seem to remember 100%. That quite well.
So, when I look back on it, on his 100 games in charge, it's definitely been more highs than lows for me.
100%. Well, speaking of highs rather than lows, although I can't see where this is going to end up, to be fair, Jamaica are plotting an audacious move to call up 15 English stars, including Michail Antonio, Damari Gray, Max Aarons and Liam Moore, ahead of next year's World Cup. And most of them have already applied for their Jamaican passports. They have a short list of 15 players. Most of them are already in the process of acquiring their passports. Michail Antonio is one of 3 Premier League players they want to call up, including Nathan Dyer, which is part of the reason we included this article. Max Aarons, Damari Gray and Ivan Toney are waiting for England call-ups. Jamaica are plotting this move ahead of next year's World Cup in Qatar. So, yeah, you might well see Nathan Redmond in a Jamaica shirt, man.
No, I did. I read this with real interest in the sense that obviously Jamaica have deliberately targeted people that are on the fringes. I think of all the people that are red that they targeted, the only person that I would say would still be with a chance of an England call-up would be Max Aarons, because he's so young. I mean, he's only 22, and I still think the best is yet to come from him. You don't get interest from the likes of Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich if there isn't something about you. So, I still think it's an early call for him. But certainly everyone else that was listed there, although they've all been on the fringes of the England squad, the bottom line is that, it's more a case that those players probably won't get called up, and
I agree with that.
Well, why not? Why not? Surely everybody wants to play international football. If you're a professional footballer, and why not go and play for the Reggae Boys? I mean, could you imagine if Jamaica had an all 11 Premier League team? I mean, they would storm through their groups because they're in the Central America group. They'd be probably beating America at the World Cup qualification. But good luck to them if that's the route they want to go down. I mean, and like I said, I just think that when you're a professional footballer, the one thing you would regret is not having the opportunity to at least play international football.
Oh, absolutely right.
Even if you have got your heart on playing for another nation and they sort of knock you back or whatever.
Well, I think to be fair, caps don't mean quite as much as they used to years and years and years ago. But then there's a lot more money in the game now, isn't there? To be fair,
there's more international matches happening than there was years ago, mate.
If you are able to get international football, you will theoretically play for whichever nation you're able to play for. If it means you get to play international football, you get to play on the biggest stage in World Cups and European Championships and stuff like that, which is arguably the biggest stage. So it makes sense if you're a player, you're going to go to whichever nation is likely to pick you, aren't you?
The only thing I was going to say to you was
doesn't mean anyone's a world beater.
We actually benefit from that for Northern Ireland with Mike Taylor, because Mike Taylor was born on an army base in Germany in Hanover, right? And because he was born there, he could play for any of the home nations. And he decided to play for us, and I'm so glad he did.
Yeah, because there was a misunderstanding when he came, when that all came about. It was a misunderstanding at Saints that Mike Taylor was actually German, and he wasn't. It was the fact he was born there. Yeah,
no, he was born on an British army base.
Anyway, so that brings us to the end of the Saints section, Saints gossip section. So we're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, last bit of the show today, which is the two Saints preview of Saints versus Brighton and Hove Albion, coming up on Sunday. Right, welcome back, everybody. So, the two Saints preview of Saints versus Brighton. Last time out, Brighton were victims of a random VAR decision in a 2-1 Saints win. Grob with a penalty on 26 minutes, Vestergaard with an equaliser on 45 minutes, Danny Ings with a penalty on 81 minutes, Saints running out 2-1 winners. As I said, Brighton victims of a random VAR decision. And in the reverse fixture, it was Saints 1, Brighton 1, and that was the 16th of July 2020. Danny Ings in the 66th minute after a Mopé, their opening goal from Neil Mopé, 17 minutes, and Danny Ings with an equaliser in the 66th minute. It ended up 1-1 to Saints. Yeah, so, I'm going 2-0 Saints on this one, Mark.
Okay. Well, all I'm going to say is just on those two fixtures, I think looking at it, the game that was played this season at the Annex, I would say Brighton can consider themselves unlucky not to have come away with a point. Let's be... don't get me wrong, I was highly delighted we got all three. But, on reflection, you'd have to say they were lucky not to come away with a point, given the performance. But, and then the game at St Mary's from last season, Mark, that was I mean, I remember that game. We had people like Jake Vokins playing for us and all sorts. And we've been on a good run of form as well. It was a baffler. I mean, it was one or two games that I didn't get. Because we were fantastic when it all started up again, right? When football, the restart, right? And during that period, I think we lost to Arsenal, which was a disappointment at home, right? And then the only other real disappointing result that I can remember was the 1-1 against Brighton. And he was playing, if I remember, Ralph was playing players out of position that night at all. So it was a bit of a strange game. I remember sat watching it with you on the watch along, and it was a strange game of football. But in terms of the game on Sunday, I'm really tempted to go conservative again, right? Because my attitude is let's not, if we can't win it, let's not lose it.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So on that basis and the fact that we're at home, and Brighton, they play some great football under Graham Potter. And funny enough, Graham Potter played in the famous was it the 3-1 victory or 6-3 victory? But he played in one of those really famous wins at the Dell.
I think it might have been the 3-1.
Yeah, I think it might have been the 3-1. But he played in one of those two famous games. I know he definitely did for Saints. And he's got Brighton. I mean, look, the thing is, Chris Hughton, probably the style of play wasn't aesthetically pleasing.
Yep.
They do play good football, but he has the same fundamental problem that Chris Hughton had, Graham Potter, in that they're not effective enough in front of goal. And that's where they struggle. They play brilliant football up until the 18-yard box, and then it's like, what do we do now? So it's such a hard one. See, I want to go 1-1, but I think my heart is turning around and saying to me it's going to be another 2-0 victory, hopefully. So I'm going to go 2-0.
It's a two Saints double. They're both predicting 2-0.
Yeah,
well, here's a bit of good news for you, Mark. Well, here's a bit of news for you, fresh from the press conference this afternoon with Ralph Hasenhüttl. So this is breaking news, everybody.
Good.
Ralph Hasenhüttl said he hopes Moussa Djenepo will be available for the meeting with Brighton and St Mary's, but says he must make a late decision on the winger's fitness. So Djenepo could be available. That'd be good news if he is.
That's good news after him going out of the game, obviously, with what looked like a groin strain.
And Danny Ings is definitely out till the international break.
The thing is I know that he can be consistently inconsistent if that's possible, but I'm a Moussa fan. I'd sooner have Moussa in the lineup or within the squad at least than maybe a Nathan Redmond, to be honest with you.
Yep. No. I'm hoping that Moussa will be fit because I do think he's an asset when he's available, and we definitely need him. And with Danny Ings not being out, we need as many attacking options as we've got, to be fair.
Yeah, but I just think one of the things with him is he probably gets injured too easily, but then you could lay that at many of the Saints players' doors.
Well, I think one of the problems with Moussa Djenepo, and Ralph's alluded to it in the press conference, is the fact that his body reacts differently to injuries and reacts quite strangely to injuries at times. So it'd be interesting to see. Hopefully he's all right, because he said that sometimes he reacts quite badly to an injury at the time and it feels a lot worse than it is. So hopefully this is one of the ones where, this is one of the ones where he's kind of overreacted a little bit and it's hurt more at the time than it does. So hopefully it's just a minor twinge.
Yeah, I always think that's all to do with physique, Mark, to be honest.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Well, it's going to take him time to adjust to the Premier League, isn't it? So, once he gets used to the physicality and whatever.
Sorry, listeners, I don't want to bore you here, but Mark, have you got an update at all on Theo Walcott? What is the issue there?
He's been out with a hamstring. He's still out with a hamstring injury. No update, unfortunately. Just still long term.
Just I haven't heard anything for a while.
No, that tells me it's a long time because he's not even been mentioned in the press conferences. Nobody's even asked.
That's why I had to ask you. So sorry, listeners.
So I have it on good authority, though. Saints have decided they're now going to launch a new book this week called Where's Theo? You've heard of Where's Wally? So a new Saints book coming out this week called Where's Theo? And you've got to try and spot him in and around Southampton. last seen at Staplewood, but I couldn't tell you when. Anyway, so that wraps things up brilliantly today. So we're both going for a 2-0 win against Brighton on Sunday. Come on, you Reds. Let's hope for that. That'd be fantastic. Another clean sheet would be very, very nice indeed. But that's it from both of us on the Two Saints podcast show today. So it's goodbye for myself.
It's goodbye from me, people. Hopefully you're all going to get your vaccines and, hopefully things will look a bit brighter. But in the meantime, keep looking after each other. Keep, looking after each other. Keep treating each other with respect and everything else. And hopefully we will see, you'll hear from us again next week. So thanks for listening. Hopefully there's been bits and pieces that you've enjoyed your Mark and I's ramblings. So I'll shut up now. And just to say, keep well and stay safe.
Absolutely right. And don't forget, you can access the podcast in the following ways. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. And all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining us on the Two Saints Show this week. Please join us again next week when the Two Saints go marching in again. Bye for now.
Bye.